welcome to Issaquah Buzz, where we talk about all things business in Issaquah, from new restaurants to retail gossip. My name is Autumn Monahan. I work with the City of Issaquah's communications team, and I'm here with Jen Davis-Hayes, who heads up our economic development division at the city. So welcome, Jen. I think this is our 7th podcast.
Yeah.
Not that we're counting, but
No. But it's our the year-end edition, which is so exciting to actually see. And we're going to continue this fun podcast into 2023. So
no, I'm excited too. So let's just take a moment to kind of reflect on everything we've covered in 2022. So we've had, a lot of opportunities to talk about seasonal events and, things that are happening over the summertime or, leading up to Salmon Days. So that's been fun to kind of reflect on what's ahead as far as events and things that our community can do that also support local business. And then we featured some, businesses too through interviews. So that's included the Big Picture, which I can't believe that's this year. It just feels like it's been around a while now.
Was that our first? That was our first Buzz, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yep. We get to talk to Mark, and that was really exciting to kind of hear where the story of the Big Picture kind of came from.
Yeah, and then there was Walla Books and Fortunato Chocolate, which I finally went to, and oh my gosh, bought so many holiday gifts.
Good.
And had a ton of hot chocolate. Same with my kids. So good.
Yes. Free hot chocolate, and it's so yummy. Yes. It's amazing.
Anyway, I highly recommend. So that was also a really fun interview to hear more about the history of Fortunato chocolates. Yeah. What else did we cover this year? So,
so the last edition we talked, or maybe 2 editions or episodes before, we talked about businesses that quote unquote made in Issaquah businesses. So everything from Sanmar, which actually it sits atop the hill there with behind Home Depot. You see the name on the building, but you don't really understand what they do. And they are, again, a homegrown business and do a lot of great business throughout the world around branded merchandising, which is amazing that they do that from here, from Issaquah. And then we got to see and talk about some of the smaller businesses like new Northwest Makes, which is in Gilman Lofts, and some other ones. And you're just like, wait, we have a board game maker here. We have this. We have lots of fun small businesses and large businesses that born here in Issaquah, quote unquote.
Yeah, and that was kind of where this idea of this podcast came from. Is that oftentimes I'm an Issaquah resident, and I would call you or send you a DM and just say, what's new or what's happening? And as I'm just in the community, that's what we all love to talk about too, is kind of what's, I see this, hiring sign, or I see that like some construction's happening here, like what is going on? So I hope that, if we're just now catching you as the first time listening to our podcast, that you can go back and also learn about some other Issaquah businesses and some of our previous episodes. So we are excited to continue this and to see where next year leads. So as we're kind of thinking through the, a recap of 2022, this was the city's 130th birthday.
Yes.
And we hosted a lot of events and did a lot of fun things this year to recognize 130 years. And, one thing that we were just chatting about that we wanted to mention that was just connected to businesses is we just buried the time capsule and we're going to do some promotion. We have a video around it too, just to show you what we actually put in there. But part of that was we reached out to a lot of local restaurants and got their menus and buried those as well. So it'll be cool, when we dig that up years and years from now, probably long past you and I, it'll be really interesting to see, not only what was, popular on, on menus at local restaurants, but also probably the cost of those things too.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So anyway, a lot of other stuff we buried, but that was kind of a fun nod, I thought, to local businesses and what's popular now.
Yeah, no, that would, could you imagine looking back 25 years ago, what restaurants, probably was pretty limited as far as what we can see now. So it'll be really interesting to see what the reaction is in, 25 plus years from now. It's like the 8, what?
Yeah.
I wonder if the Triple X burger will still be around. That's what I wonder.
I was just thinking that. I was trying to remember how, and they've been around forever. So that might have even been at least 25 years ago. So about a year ago, so I think the end of 2021, you led a business survey that we sent out to local residents to provide feedback on what things they'd like to see, what kind of businesses, what services. So that was about a year ago, right?
Yeah, the end of this year we closed it. Or last year.
Yeah, and great feedback. I think a lot of people took the survey, so thanks to those that participated. And what did you learn, or what did we find in that survey?
Yeah, no, it was really fun. And we got, so we got people to do a survey, but also some responses on Facebook. So we'd say, what kind of restaurants you want to see, what kind of this and that. And by large, bakeries and bagels were the big food category they wanted to see. Talking about indoor entertainment, wanting bookstores, additional meeting spaces, and just kind of a lot of things that we realized we do have in this community, right? So obviously, with Barnes and Noble closing, the bookstore, where I was gone, but we're lucky enough that Walls of Books opened this year, and so that was a great way to promote. Like, hey, you've asked for a bookstore, here it is, right?
Yeah.
People also looked at like indoor golf, because Top Golf is really popular, in the region, and so when Family Entertainment Center opened in November, they have simulated golf. Indoor golf as one of their options. So not only can go there as, kids enjoy the arcade and the escape room and laser tag, there's that availability as well. So, kind of thinking about it of making sure that our residents know that what's out there. And, and some of the things people say they wanted, like apparel, you think, oh my gosh, there's a lot of places out there that exist, but then there's new ones like Gem Lake Designs. Have you seen that business?
Yes.
What do you think? What do you think about that? It's like so exciting to see Poo Poo Point and other like Issaquah things on sweatshirts and other apparel.
Yeah, I just learned of them, and it was because they follow the city on Twitter. So I dug in on the account, was like, what is this? And yeah, it immediately was starting to add a few things to cart for family and others that live in the Issaquah area. But that just happened. I mean, that just popped up from what I can tell pretty recently. So.
Yeah. So that's, again, these are the things that we hope that our listeners and people who are following the city of Issaquah help us understand the buzz going on in Issaquah, because we can't be everywhere at all things. But doing that survey really helped us understand what our residents say they wanted. So then, for instance, more meeting space. So many more people are working from home. And so they need either temporary space or smaller space. And so we put out a Facebook post talking about 3 different options for that. So looking at Hyla Pads, which is a new product at Raleigh Centers, where they're basically, you can lease it out for a month, right? And it has a shared receptionist, and it's right there off of I-90 and SR 900. And so it's a great spot. We have the Issaquah Lofts, which are smaller spaces that have been open for about a year now. And again, something that, moving out of your garage or out of the side of your, living room into a bigger space. And then Meadow Creek Business Center has been here for a while, down at basically across from Walgreens and the Home Depot Center. And you can rent someplace for an hour, you can rent a conference room, you can rent there by the month. And so there's all these options, like you don't have to commit to a 5-year lease, right? And so we want to let people know who either are working from home and they say, you know what, I want to be someplace else, or they're starting a business and they're not ready to go and sign, 10,000 square foot space yet. So those kind of things, again, that we may know 1 or 2 of those places exist, but maybe the residents don't. So I'm looking forward in the new year to kind of do more of that, right? So one of the things people said is they wanted more grocery options. Well, we have a new Indian grocery store, and they're looking at a meat market as well at Gilman Square. Apparels and shoes is another big one. And so there's a new shoe store called Chicks in Downtown Plaza. Just went there the other day for the first time. Amazing. Talk about that customer service approach to shoes. It's not like you're going to go in there and ask for size 15 and they give it to you and then walk away. They are sitting there. They're sit and fit is what they call it. So they are taking care of their customers from every little aspect of your shoes. So that's pretty cool.
What kind of shoes?
Men's, women's. So there's So they had athletic shoes. They have boots, sandals, all that kind of good stuff. So they used to be on Mercer Island and they moved here maybe about 6 months ago or so. So that's right by the Dollar Tree. And then what I'm also excited about is the creative district. So that's one of the other things we talked about here on the Buzz. And next year, they're really looking at promoting all of the arts and culture kind of focused businesses in that district. So there's a ton of places you can go get an art class or some kind of craft or activity class for adults, right? So, I think they're going to be really promoting that and also drawing in other types of businesses that fit into the district. So those things we'll be paying attention to in the future, and maybe some future Buzz topics.
Yeah, I just noticed that at the corner of Front and Sunset, we wrapped one of the traffic boxes that says Creative District on it. And that was just a nice way to welcome and really to educate people as they're walking into Front Street that they're entering the Creative District. So I love that. So last night I was out to dinner with a friend, and we were chatting a bit about just, I don't know, all things Issaquah. And she said, you know what Issaquah needs is bakeries and bagels. Exactly what the survey said.
No, you gotta be kidding me.
This happened last night. Yeah, and so I was like, well, I brought up Forest Ferry Bakery, which a coworker brought some holiday cookies in that we were snacking on. They were so cute. And I'll admit I've never been there. I might have been there once or twice a while ago, but I do forget. And so are there other bakeries too that we should be helping to promote? Because a lot of people are thinking that of like, I just need, I've got a craving for a baked good, or I want something in the morning. So we've got definitely Forest Ferry on Front Street. What else is there?
So Paisley Parlor, which is in Gilman Village over by Issaquah Coffee. So again, they do lots of good things, but they have baked goods there. And so it's one of those things that when we look to try to promote who has, baked goods. There's lots of places that, obviously you have your grocery stores, right? And you have, like Panera Bread and those type of things that have some really good baked goods you may not think about as a bakery per se. But there's a Mexican grocery store in Gilman that has they bring in some baked goods every once in a while. But I think, we have a lot of smaller places that may not be the big come here, we are a bakery type of thing. Right. L'Expérience Paris up on the Talus is like mouth-watering good. I'm actually getting, a little drool here. So talk about butter in your baked goods. They are amazing up there. And so, we've had a pie bakery come and trying to find a place. We've had a few others. Again, the hard part is people want to be in Issaquah, and we've said this before about businesses. They've been looking for 5 years, here, and so we do what we can to try to get creative. Like, how about they were looking at co-locating with somebody, and so we'll continue to work with businesses any size and think about how can we get you here. Bagels, we're still trying. Again, we have a business that's been looking for a long time, and every time there's an opening that is about what they need, I'm like immediately, hey, check out this place. So we're not for trying, but hopefully it clicks. And I think they know. We have told them, we share the survey results with businesses and with brokers saying this is what people want, right? So you don't even have to ask what people want. This is what they want. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. And also to kind of articulate, you've got this customer base that's very exciting and welcoming you. If you're making bagels, we're ready, right?
Yeah. Indeed.
So how is Issaquah's local economy? Just as we're talking about, supporting local business.
Yeah. Well, I think all of us are kind of like, what's going to happen, right? But our economy has been actually really strong. And so while there's inflation and uncertainty in the air, right? Yeah. Definitely impacting our residents and others throughout the country. Our businesses have been strong over and over again. I've heard them say we have sales at or above levels of 2019.
Right.
So we exhale when we hear that, because we all know businesses really struggled during the pandemic, and there have been some that had to close. Yeah. But the ones that are surviving are kind of getting back there now. They may be catching up on some of those bills, from when they didn't have as much sales, but we are showing our Issaquah loyalness to our local businesses, which is really great. And even hotels are rebounding and getting above sales from 2019 as well.
Yeah.
So they're not back to normal, but they're growing back to normal. And so I think 2023 is just going to be really good for Issaquah. We're going to have businesses that have really figured out what their new, if they've changed their focus or they added new products in or that type of stuff. And I think for all of us, we're ready to just be more normal and be proactive, and like the businesses who want to grow kind of figure that out. Supply chain is kind of working its way out, those type of things. But I think for overall, I think Issaquah, because of the residents like we have here listening, they support local, right? They are supporting the small businesses, and that's really what's going to keep us vibrant, because people want to come here and enjoy the variety that we have. So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a bright 2023, we're working on our content list for next year. I think one area that we're excited to really celebrate all year long is that it's Gilman Village's 50th anniversary.
That's
50
amazing.
Years.
That's so
right?
cool.
Yes. So we're excited to, highlight the history and the stories and the memories that are all entwined within Gilman Village, which is such a unique feature to our community. So that'll be one area that I know we'll focus on. What else is on our list?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was thinking about that. There's some things that have been happening, quote unquote, happening for a while, right? And
Yeah.
will be opening. So like everybody has seen the cranes over by Costco headquarters. So they expect to move into their new headquarters building, in spring of next year. And so that'll be really, really great to see that campus kind of alive again and no more detours when I go to Costco. But, they're one of our largest employers, and they are, again, a reason why people come to Issaquah. And so we're really excited to see them invest and stay here in Issaquah. And then right near there, the old Holiday Inn is under rehab for Fairfield Inn. It's a Marriott brand hotel. So it was closed during the pandemic. It was a isolation center, but they are making it nice and going to reopen next year as well. So again, another opportunity for people to come and have their family stay there, have tourists come, have business travelers come, and they come and spend money in our city and enjoy all the things that we do. So that's important to our tourism industry. But there's a whole bunch of like shiny things, right, that we you like to see. But I think one of the most buzzworthy items that I like to talk about is, again, the current businesses that continue to recover and grow and thrive. And so I think that's what's going to be really exciting to talk about next year, and getting some of those stories about why they came to Issaquah, why they love Issaquah, and how others can come and have that same feel. So that's my buzzworthy kind of excitement for next year.
Great. Well, thank you, Jen. And I'm excited to continue working with you early next year as we continue our adventure on this podcast. Yes. To end this year, we are going to end with an interview that you did with a representative that was talking through some loans that were available for local business.
Yeah, so the Small Business Flex Fund, and I think we might have mentioned it here before, but maybe not, is a state effort, and we actually contributed. The city of Issaquah did contribute money towards that with other partners to provide low interest loans to small businesses. So the loans only go up to a certain amount, $150,000, but it's really helping those small businesses who need that, not only to kind of catch up from COVID, but also to plan the next step. So yes, so we're going to hear from our Department of Commerce representative more about that next. And we're here today with Keith Swenson, the Deputy Assistant Director at the Washington State Department of Commerce, and we're going to be talking about Small Business Flex Fund. So this is a newer program that the state has, and we want to share all the great news about it with our business community. So welcome, Keith. Thanks for coming with us today in Issaquah Buzz.
Hey, good morning. Glad to be here. Really excited to talk about this fantastic opportunity for small businesses.
Yeah, thank you. So tell me more about the Small Business Flex Fund. What's the benefit to businesses, and why is it unique?
Sure. So the Small Business Flex Fund was created early on in the actual pandemic time through CARES Act dollars that came from the federal government. And what we noticed early on, if the business community folks can remember, there were a lot of grants flying out the door, emergency relief grants, for example. In commerce, we call them Working Washington grants. Mm-hmm. I think today we're just wrapping up the round 5 version of those, by the way. But what was recognized fairly early on was not just small dollar relief grants, but really, trying to provide a tool, a lending tool or a capital tool, if you will, that really helps businesses be more proactive and strategic in their capital needs. And during the time of the pandemic, with finances being a little wonky, showing what their financial books look like to lenders, it became more difficult. So what Commerce did in partnership with, actually, the governor kicked this off with a commitment of $30 million for the state to seed a fund that addresses a couple things: easier access, equitable access, and term rates that are friendly to the business owner in a time that was incredibly challenging and continues to be, right? And one of the, I'm going to pivot here to today, so that's kind of how it initiated, and it's a public-private partnership where we were able to use that 30 million as a base to that fund and fundraise up to $105 million with local Washington banking partners around the state. So we were really proud of that, really proud of being able to engage the private sector to really, meet the needs of small businesses, right? When you talk to business owners, what's really difficult is just the uncertainty of the future. So having interest rates that are locked in, for example, being able to borrow, not small number, but, $150,000 is the cap, right? But enough capital gets them perhaps through a quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarters, depending on the business they have.
Yeah, no, and so now with interest rates going up across the country, what does the small business flex funds, are those interest rates, you said they're locked in?
They are right now, you're correct.
Right.
So we don't anticipate those changing unless something really hits the financial market that we haven't seen as of yet. But they are still holding true to their 3 to 4% interest rates. The program itself is, well, we're entering this phase of really trying to close it down, though. These, as I said when we first started the conversation, they are, this is held up by federal dollars, and there's a time limit to that money, if you will, right? So we've extended the program actually out into the first quarter of 2023. So I think we're getting applications through the portal through February, I believe.
That's great. That's great. I know I've worked in economic development for over 20 years, and capital is a hard thing for smaller businesses, like you said, and especially more so for those businesses that have been really hurt during the pandemic. So we so appreciate the state putting this together. And actually, I don't know if you know, but the city of Issaquah actually contributed $300,000 towards the fund as well. And because we knew how important it was to ensure that we can serve our Issaquah businesses and they have access to that. So
that's right. That's a good one. Just you remind me of something great about the innovative side of this fund, right? And it's built off partnerships. And one of the key partnerships around the Flex Fund is partnering with the local community, like trusted messengers, like yourselves, on the city level, but also in the communities too, right? And so really being able to communicate the advantages, or is this right for individual businesses, so they're hearing the message from folks they trust in their communities too.
That is so key. I was just talking to some of our Issaquah business associations this morning with what we call Vision Partners, and we have learned a lot during the pandemic. And so it's so key that we don't just go back to normal and we take that learning moving forward. So I'm so glad that the state has seen okay, we learned this in the grants, and now we're moving it forward into not only the loan program, but other things. So what kind of things can businesses get loans for, and what have you seen it being used for?
Sure. And because of, it's relatively small dollar amount, you've seen a lot of operational costs. So what I mean by that is, maybe covering payroll for a period of time while they get through a period of, uncertainty, utilities, rent, marketing. I think that's we're seeing more and more in. So as folks are reopening, if you will, or expanding, being able to advertise that, hey, we're still here, right? Come back to Main Street, come back to your mom and pop, businesses that are really part of the culture of our communities, right? Is a big deal. And then there's a myriad of others. It's a fairly open and flexible use of funds. One of the simple things you can't do is just, use this to pay any back taxes or anything like that. But all those pieces that I talked about, we see a lot of use for, especially on the relaunching of folks in their businesses. So
key. Yeah. So any other tips for people who might want to apply, and how do they move forward with doing something if they'd like to get their application moving with Small Business Flex Fund?
Sure. I have one key tip.
Okay.
And that is, don't pre-qualify yourself.
Okay. What does that mean?
What do I mean by that is, hey, when you go to the smallbusinessflexfund.org website, it'll have a wealth of information for you, including like the terms and what it is and who are the partners, all that stuff, and the link to the portal. What I like to do is and encourage people to say is, hey, any questions you have, just submit through the portal, right? Don't tell yourself, well, I don't think I qualify for this, so I'm not going to engage. That's pre-qualifying yourself. You'd be amazed as the resources that come up through this process, right? And so just, if you're willing, submit, what your business is through the portal. It's not a qualification portal. Like I said, all it is getting to understand your business, your need, and then the next step after that is matching you with resources to help, right? And so it really is a tool. It's a tool to help business owners with any capital challenges they may have. And so I say to folks, use the tool, right? See if it can help you out. And if it can't, that's okay. Maybe there's others, resources out there that can.
That is great advice. And so, and it seems like even if this product isn't best for them, they may get connected to something else that works. So, well, thank you, Keith. I really, really appreciate you taking the time today and for sharing that there may be some more cool programs coming for small businesses and their lending needs. So they need to apply by mid-February or so is the rolling deadline right now?
Yep, I think you're right. It'll be the portal will be open. I'm telling folks about February to give people time to get in into the process. And again, let me be very good. It's smallbusinessflexfund.org. Go there to that main page, and it's again, if you first want to get comfortable with more information, there's a lot there. The portal link is there too. So just know that's your mechanism to reach our partners. And we're really excited. We're so thankful for the partnerships as well, and really providing value to our community. So I look forward to even more, right? I think this is hopefully a start of just, in state of Washington, providing more resources to small businesses that really need it.
Yeah, no, that is so true. And so we really appreciate, again, your coming here today, and you're welcome back anytime on Issaquah Buzz when you got some cool things talking about how the state and our communities can work together to support our businesses, because that's what it's really about. And we so appreciate the investments you guys have made over these past few years have been tough times, and you'll continue to make. So thank you so much.
Happy to do it anytime. Let me know.
All right. Take care.
Great. Welcome back. Thank you, Jen, for that interview. That was really great information for all of our local businesses here in Issaquah. Yes. So thank you once again. And to all of our listeners, if you have any burning questions or you drive by and you see a local business and wondering what's happening, send us an email and we'll cover it in our next podcast at ed@issaquahwa.gov. Thanks so much.
Thank you.